Radical Allowing, a psychotherapy style by Mike Hellwig. Hello, this is Chris speaking, Shores of Infinity, with a video about spirituality and psychotherapy. How can certain styles of psychotherapy help us on our spiritual path? The last video was about family constellation, Familienaufstellung, and this second part is about radical allowing, radikale Erlaubnis. First off, don't confuse radical allowing with radical honesty. Radical Honesty by Brad Blanton, I will talk about that too soon, is also a very good style, also very interesting and helpful, and it probably played a part in developing radical allowing. That's probably also where the word comes from. But it is more about allowing. Allowing what? Both in my clinic, as I also work as a psychotherapist amongst other things, and in conversations about spirituality with you guys and with others, it comes up again and again what to do with old trauma which surface suddenly. Some psychological pain, some internal pain. What to do with it? Someone recently told me he smokes weed. That's of course one possibility, but it will not deal with the problem. Lots of people medicate themselves with tobacco or hemp or other things to not having to deal with these problems. So, two things you can do is either externalize them, as I explained in the family constellation video, or to further internalize it with things like radical allowing, radical honesty, quantum psychology, and so on. My friend Tom and I, with whom I exchange about the effectiveness of these methods, we try them out and then discuss how effective they are. We came across this radical allowing, or better, he came across it, told me about it, and then I also tried it out, and we both love it. The founder, Mike Hellwig, is a German psychologist who tried out many things and nothing worked until he synthesized his own style, which now works very well. It can take a while though. The big disadvantage is it may take a while, because part of the method is to give it time, as long as it takes. And this may lead, if you do it really in its extreme and radical version, it may lead that you having to take off a few days or weeks of work or whatever you're doing to really go into it and let it finish, let it run its course. But even if you don't do that, you can still use it. The thing is that you don't treat your psychological pain or fear or depression or whatever it is, you don't treat it as an enemy. And you don't even treat it as yourself, because often we confuse physical or psychological pain with ourselves. It comes so much in the forefront, it becomes so prominent, that you think that's me, this pain is me. You identify fully with the pain. So if you're not supposed to identify with it, and if you're not supposed to see it as an external enemy or even internal enemy, what then are you supposed to do with it? You treat it as a guest. You treat it as a guest. You don't let the guest control you, but you don't lock him or her in the basement either. You can also call it an inner child or a guardian. Because usually the origin of these pains or psychological problems is that at some point some situation was so horrible that you couldn't stand it. It was absolutely overwhelming. So you created this guardian to help you survive this moment, which seemed just too much. So this guardian is a part of you that was split off to guard the rest, to save the rest, both in this moment and to make sure that in the immediate future after that horrible moment, you would not come into this or a similar situation again. But this often leads to this guardian thinking it has to guard you from that sensation and that type of situation and that type of feeling for the rest of your life. That was not the original plan, but part of your psychology thought it was or just forgot about it. It created this guardian, your psyche created this guardian and then forgot about it and kind of abandoned it. And this guardian or inner child feels abandoned, and rightly so, it is abandoned. Imagine a friend of yours saves your life and then you lock him in your basement and forget about him. That's basically what happened. And that is why these parts, it's not your whole self, it's a part of yourself. This part of yourself, this inner child, this aspect of yourself, this archetype as Jung would call it, or this guardian, gets angry. After some months or years or decades, it becomes really, really angry. Like a child or like a friend that you have forgotten, locked in the basement. They become like demons in, what's that movie called? Evil Dead. There's this demon in the basement. Or the clown in It. Or Mike Hellwig has an example, the Count of Monte Cristo. So these locked away parts, they plot revenge, like the Count of Monte Cristo, and they will make your life hell until you look at them. Here's a parallel to family constellation, but instead of looking at them externalized, you go deep inside and look at them how? You focus on the physical sensation, not on the thoughts or emotions, but on the physical sensation, which can be anywhere, but is often in your belly. So when these fears or pains or whatever psychological problems come up, instead of running away and pushing the guardian or inner child back into the basement, you look at it, feel it, go really into the sensation, into the physical sensation. How does it feel like? And you can thank your guardian for having saved you a long time ago, and then allow it to be there, because all it wants is to be heard and seen and to be reintegrated. It doesn't want to live in the basement anymore. It wants to be part of the whole again, part of you. It is part of you, but it's separated. It wants to re-merge with yourself, and it can only do that if you re-establish a relationship of trust. It doesn't trust you anymore. You abandoned it. So if you allow it to be there as long as necessary, it can reintegrate and thus disappear in a way. It doesn't disappear, it gets reintegrated, but then it doesn't have to make a ruckus anymore. It doesn't have to take revenge or torture you anymore. All these pains, the psychological pains, they're just signs from your psyche, like Jung also discovered. They're signs from your psyche that something needs to be looked at. And one way not to look at it is to take medication, for example. Some people need the medication to function, but they could just as well have a deep look. And the old type of psychoanalysis doesn't help you anymore because you just talk about it. Talking is not enough because you want to get rid of it. It doesn't work if you want to get rid of it. Also this technique, it doesn't work if you pretend to do this radical allowing in order to get rid of it. No. You have to allow it to be there as long as it takes for it to reintegrate and for it to not be mortally offended anymore. It's miffed, it's pissed off, it's really annoyed. So it takes a while. You need to make a connection again. It's not enough to say, okay, you can come back, then it's over with. No, it doesn't work like that. So two of the great things that Mike Hellwig discovered are, one, that it takes as long as it takes. And you have to be really open to it, to take that time. The second thing is to treat it as a guest or as a guardian. And thus to know that it is a part of you, like your knee. I just explained it to friends of ours recently. Your knee is a part of your body. But you are not your knee. Even if your knee hurts, you're not your knee. It's still just a part of your body. So you take care of it because it's a part of your body. But you can also become totally identified with the knee pain and think you are the knee pain. You're not. It's the same thing with the depression or mania or OCD or fear or phobia. You are not the fear or depression, but the depression is a part of you. There is a part of you who feels depressed. That's it. You are not depressed. A part of you is depressed. And it belongs to you, but it's not all of you. It doesn't define you unless you choose to. If you identify with it, then it defines you, of course. Okay, you can read the books. The second book is also in English. The others are unfortunately only in German. But the second book is also in English. It's called Opening the Wound. I have recommended it already to my Patreons. Thank you, by the way, to all my Patreons, and thank you for joining me as a Patreon. So it's a very helpful, practical book. One of the most practical books of all I've ever read. It's a very good book, and Mike Hellwig has a very unique writing style, which makes you feel that he's only talking to you right now, or only writing to you right now. It's really cool. Thank you, Mike, for being such a very good author, if you ever watch this video. Thank you. For all those who understand German, I also recommend the book Das Rauschen in der Tiefe, which you could translate with the rustle from the deep. Rauschen is very hard to translate. It's the sound the ocean waves make, or the sound if you hold a seashell to your ear. That's Rauschen. And the deep means in the deep water, deep down, when you're diving, there's also this noise. No idea what you called it in English. So the noise, the rustle, the whooshing you hear when you're deep diving. And that's what you do here, deep diving. And some of these deep diving experiments Mike did himself, he worked into a novel, which is very fun to read. In the beginning it's like, huh? What? But then it's really cool, really funny. So, back to the parallel. What does it have to do with spirituality, with your spiritual path? It's the same. This method is the same as spirituality. Whatever comes up, look at it. Look at it and don't be too much in your mind. What does it do in your physical body? What sensation does it bring forth? And stay with it. Don't run away. Both on the spiritual path and in psychology, You are an explorer of your own house, of your own cave, of your own ocean. Go down into the depths. That's also what Sri Aurobindo recommends. That's why I like Sri Aurobindo too much. He goes up to the highest pinnacles and then down to the deepest depths, to the abyss. Up and down, up and down. Both motions are necessary. Zoom in and zoom out. And many spiritual seekers, they focus on the zooming out and forget that there's a zooming in as well that is also necessary. There's a deep diving also necessary. A radical allowing of what is there, what is really there. So try it out. It's really one of the coolest methods out there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you to all my Patreons. Leave your comments below and see you soon.